Coming up on today's second edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, it's all things Champ Kelly, all things Antonio Pierce, and what they could potentially do with the Silver and Black the final 9 games of the 2023 season. That plus a whole lot more comes up on the second edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, November 2nd, 2023.
Hey, look, man, being a Raider, straight up, it means something. I don't do gotta wear that. You gotta be that. And when you be that, you feel that.
Robertson in the back corner.
And when you feel that, they feel that. That fearlessness, that pressure.
Hey, we are right here. We're right here.
You know what they say about pressure. Pressure busts pipes. That also make diamonds.
Down inside the 5. Max Crosby.
You might get knocked down. You might get pushed around. You don't tuck our tail and run. You turn around and look, bite. Because that's the Raider way.
Not going. Not being leaders on this. Keep talking, communicate.
No matter the record, no matter the score, at the end of the day, you want to make an individual feel good. And everybody got the opportunity to win their one-on-one battles. You start there, I guarantee you, be on top in the winning column in the check game. From here on out, you must go out and play the Raider way.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. Of course, as always, you're checking us out on YouTube. Thank you. We appreciate you, and we appreciate my man Ari. And I know I shout out the first listen of the day, but if you're listening to this too, maybe it's the second listen of the day, and we do appreciate that as well. As you could tell, we had a little bit different intro right there. The Raiders released this on Wednesday. I thought that was pretty cool, so I thought it was appropriate. My guy, Mailman Raider, actually sent it to me and said, hey, this would be a great way to start the show, and I think he's right. So starting off disc 2, thought it was kind of cool to hear Marshawn Lynch talking about the Raiders way. Not, Patriots West, not this, that, and the other, but the Raiders way, which is obviously something that they're trying to get back to after what went wrong with Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, and even offensive coordinator Mick Lombardi, who was let go as of Wednesday. So this is disc 2. Haven't done a disc 2 for a long time, but every time the Raiders have something really big that pops up, it always seems like it pops up around Crossover Thursday. And I just thought it wasn't right to do the crossover show and focus in on the game on Sunday, which is important, don't get me wrong, but also kind of forget everything that happened on Wednesday. So kind of not having news and notes from the crossover edition, I thought, you know what, might as well go ahead and break down and do a whole nother disc. So I know it's a little bit separated and a little bit later released than the other one. I had to do my radio show on ESPN as well, so I've been very, very busy. But again, I don't want to cheat Raider Nation, and I think the Raider Nation would appreciate it. So we're going to have to go ahead and roll with it just like this. So hopefully you do appreciate disc number 2 here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get into it, though, I do want to let you know that today's show is being brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. And I'll tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of sound in this episode, in disc 2 of the Locked On Raiders podcast, because Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly had their opening press conference on Wednesday. It was about 1 o'clock Pacific time, and my radio show starts at 2, so didn't know how it was going to work out, didn't know if I was going to have enough time, but I was definitely in attendance. And I'll tell you, my initial takeaway, and I'm going to let you just hear the opening statement right now, but my initial takeaway after leaving the Intermountain Health Performance Center on Wednesday, after hearing what they had to say, it was about a 25-minute presser. It felt to me like a breath of fresh air. It even, to take it a step further, it felt to me like a casino. And what I mean is, I'm in Vegas, so sometimes I get off the radio late on a Friday, like 11 o'clock Pacific time, maybe a little bit later sometimes. And we'll run over to the casino around the corner from the house. And I may be a little sleepy. I may be a little tired. I may not be full of energy like I always am. But, when you walk into the casino and instead of, going up to your room or just, saying, man, I'm tired, I can't really hang, you get that casino air in you. And all of a sudden you start, your shoulders start to pick up, your head starts to pick up, you start to get a little energized, right? You hear some music, you start seeing these games, you start get going, and all of a sudden that adrenaline is running. When I left the Intermountain Health Performance Center, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like I just walked into a casino late night, and that casino oxygen that they pumped into you, it's just flowing through my veins like it was injected right into my vein, and I was fired up and I was excited. And I felt like, and I got the pulse of a lot of Raider Nation by way of Twitter. I got a pulse of a lot of the people that were in the room with us, the media room with us, and there was a lot. I mean, it looked like we were back at training camp. There were so many media members that were there. It was not the usual suspects, but it was great to hear from Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly. So just in case you missed it, and I'm sure you probably didn't because so many people listened to the presser. It was streamed, Raiders.com, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I am going to play a few little sound bites here and there. So off top, I just want you to hear their opening statement. It's kind of lengthy, but here's Champ Kelly, the GM, and of course GM or head coach Antonio Pierce, both on the interim basis. But man, they sound the part. They sure sound the part. So here they are, Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you to Mr. Davis, Josh McDaniels, Dave, Patrick Graham for bringing me here and giving me this opportunity. It's never easy when you lose a teammate, a coworker, somebody that you're close with. We take that very seriously. There's lives and families that's affected by this, and we understand that. But it's a new day. It's a new chapter. It's a new era. It's a new mindset. What is that mindset? It's that of the Raider pride, the commitment to excellence, and making sure our alumni, our fan base, and Raider Nation are proud of what they see on the field. What does that look like? Tough, passionate, effort, energy, that enthusiasm that you see when we all watched our kids and these young men who are now pro athletes play when they're in Pop Warner, having that love for the game. We're on the same page, Champ and myself. Our staff is connected. We had a great team meeting this morning. Everybody was steely-eyed and focused. We walked in with a smile on our face. The synergy, the energy in this building, and the personality of our players will reflect on who we are as Raiders. This is a great opportunity for myself. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I don't take it lightly. I'm sure there'll be questions about why, how. Those all get answered. But this is about the players, this is about the Raiders, and this is about this organization, and we're tired of losing. It's not a good feeling. We're a production-based business. We're about competition, being competitive, and play with an edge and a swag and a certain confidence that when we walk out that damn tunnel, that everybody watching TV can see it, and a product on the field is something we're proud of.
I had a few things before we move forward. You know, again, to Josh McDaniels, Laura, and the kids, David Ziegler, Carissa, and the kids, I love you all dearly. So much respect for you. My thoughts and prayers are with you, and I'm forever grateful. For those of you who know me, you guys have seen me with my 3 daughters. Like, they are my everything. Today, my middle child turns 10. Her name is Chloe. So happy birthday, Chloe. Today, you are my favorite daughter. They are the best parts of me. To my wife, Stephanie, like, I'm not here without your support. Like, she's a real GM, and I love her dearly. Although the circumstances are not ideal, there's always like an opportunity in difficulties. I couldn't be prouder to accept this opportunity as an interim general manager for the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm so eager and excited to get to work. To Mark Davis, Sandra Morgan, Larry Dilson, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for this opportunity. I promise you that I won't squander the moment. Make no mistake, I'm prepared for this position. I believe in the power of intercessory prayer. I know people all over the country are praying for me in this moment. I've received so much support from colleagues, GMs across the league, former players, coaches, advisors, family, friends, my Champ Camp warriors. Like, I promise you I'll get back to you. I'm one of those guys that when I see the little dot of missed messages, I got to go through all of them. So I promise to get back to you. I'm prepared for this because I know what I don't know. Like, there will be hiccups. It won't be perfect. But I'm wise enough to know that God equips those he calls. I'm perfectly imperfect, but I know the source. To Raider Nation, in the squad meeting this AM, we talked about committing to 3 things: trust, pride, and poise. We talked about having a commitment to excellence. we talked about confidence, just winning. We're going to put our blinders on, and we're going to run our own race. Like, we don't get to pick the terrain. There will be hills. There will be potholes. We got to run on some pebbles. And the race is not always won by the swift or the strong, but it's won by those who persevere. To our fans, I hear your concerns. I share your frustrations. We're going to work to present to you a product worthy of your support. Thank you for sticking with us. I look forward to seeing you fill up Allegiant Stadium on Sunday. With this, I open up for questions.
So like I said, man, really just sounded the part, right? And again, you can say everything that you want to say. It's all about performance. You heard Antonio Pierce say that it's a performance-based business, and it is. One, I also thought that the respects that they showed to Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler and their families was really important. And I know that a lot of people don't care, and a lot of people are just kind of, dancing on the graves of Ziegler and McDaniels after getting fired. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But again, I don't root for stuff like that. I mentioned it on Wednesday's show, and I'll continue to say that. Clearly, a change was needed. A change was made. And it just, again, sounds like the right guys are in place. I'm excited to see what it looks like with Antonio Pierce. And to me, it feels like almost a young Rich Bisaccia in Antonio Pierce, right? A guy that has never been a head coach before, but is fired up. He's got the excitement. He's got the energy. He knows what it's like to communicate and connect with the players. And I think that is very, very important. So I got a couple more sound bites. One more that I'll play here in segment number 1. We'll get to some more coming up in segment number 2. But this one is Coach Pierce on just what the opportunity means to him to be the interim head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Antonio, when you got into coaching, was this a goal of yours to eventually become a head coach, and what does this opportunity mean to you on a personal level?
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've played at a high level, went all the way back to my roots and coached at Long Beach Poly. High school was a head coach there. Was at the New York Giants in 2017, and then, college for 4 years, and had opportunities to leave and go to other organizations. I decided not to. The short story, the matter of fact is I grew up in Compton, California. I was born a Raider. I was born with the Raiders rolling in the Coliseum in L.A. I was rolling with NWA, talking straight out of Compton, rocking Raider hats. So when the opportunity came to work with Josh and Pat Graham and Dave, I jumped on it. So that's what set me up for this. I was born this way.
So how cool is that, right? Grew up in Compton, California, right? He's got the, talking about the Raiders going into the Coliseum, talking about NWA, talking about straight out of Compton. I mean, all that stuff is really cool. Again, that's the press conference. These guys totally won the press conference. I'll just go ahead and say that right now. There's no doubt about it. They won the press conference. And, a lot of things that Raider Nation complained about when it came to Coach McDaniels is that they didn't feel like he was a leader of men. Right? He might be a good X's and O's coach. He might be a good coordinator, but he's not a leader. Well, I don't know how good of a head coach Antonio Pierce is going to be. We'll find out. He's got 9 weeks to show it. Champ Kelly's got 9 weeks to show what he could do at the GM position, which is a little tough after the trade deadline. But, again, his leadership, his communication, his know-how, all that good stuff, I do believe will play a role and give them an opportunity to not only be the head coach and the GM on the interim basis, but eventually get that interim taken off. Now, of course, they've got to go out there and they've got to put in the work. I knew I said that was going to be the last soundbite. Let me get one more in, though. Here's Coach Pierce and Champ Kelly on who the quarterback's going to be starting on Sunday versus the Giants and why.
On the quarterback position going forward.
It'll be Aiden going forward.
Why Aiden?
We just feel like this is his best chance.
What was the reaction like in the locker room when you made that announcement?
Very supportive.
Yeah, the guys are rallying behind him. They're excited to watch him, get his opportunity. Like, I was there as AP was speaking to the team, and he had their eyes. There was an energy that was tangible in the room. There was a true excitement, and guys are geared up to prepare for this weekend.
So there you go. I thought that was important to get that one in. It was a quick one. Thought it was important. Aiden O'Connell is going to be the guy. Jimmy G is being sat down, and as far as I'm concerned, Jimmy G is probably going to be sat down the rest of the season. Right? He's got over $11 million that's fully guaranteed for his 2024 salary already, but he also has another 11 point something million on top of that just in case he gets injury. That's guaranteed against injury. So if he goes out there and gets injured, similar to what we saw from Derek Carr last year, then they would be on the hook for that as well. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as Aiden O'Connell doesn't get injured, I feel like it's going to be the Aiden O'Connell show the rest of the way. And that's something that I've talked about on this show, that I'm okay with that. Following the loss to the Lions, I was cool with passing the sticks on to Aiden O'Connell. Josh McDaniels didn't sound 100% committed to that on Tuesday when we talked to him, even though he never had a chance to say what he was going to do moving forward. But Antonio Pierce has let it be known what he's doing forward, and it sounds like the team is pretty fired up about that as well. What does Max Crosby think? He has a podcast, Rush with Max Crosby. You'll hear some sounds from him on what he thinks about Antonio Pierce and the changes going on. Plus, you'll hear a couple more little sound bites from Antonio Pierce and interim GM Champ Kelly. That's all coming up in segment number 2 after I tell you about one of our great sponsors here, which is DoorDash. And if there's any opportunity that you need to get your hands on some food, but you don't want to leave the house, maybe you're too busy, maybe you're knocking out podcast after podcast after radio show like myself. Oh, that's just me? Okay. Well, maybe that's the case, or maybe you just don't want to leave the house and you want to get some food. DoorDash is the way to go. If you haven't used DoorDash, right, it took me forever to finally start to work my way into using DoorDash. I just basically was too lazy to do it, which should never be a reason, but it was. It probably is more of an excuse. Right now, what you need to do is download the DoorDash app. You can get 50% off $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Again, you got to download the DoorDash app. Use the promo code LOCK23, subject to change. Terms apply. Again, for the folks in the back row, don't forget, use promo code LOCK23 for 50% off at the $10 value off your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more, subject to change. Terms apply. Get all your local foods, all your local groceries, quick, fast, and hurry, delivered right to your house, right to your job, wherever the case may be, wherever you're at. All you got to do is use the DoorDash app. Download it right now. Use promo code LOCK23 for 50% off of the $10 value on your first order when you download the app and spend $15 or more. Subject to change. Terms apply. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to continue to bring you a little bit of sound on Antonio Pierce, on interim GM Champ Kelly, and both of these guys are on the interim basis right now. And the thing about it is, there was an interim title with Rich Bisaccia. He didn't end up getting the job. It ended up going to Josh McDaniels. I think that with that situation and the way that it all shook out and the way that a lot of the players in that locker room wanted Rich Bisaccia to be the head coach moving forward, I think Mark Davis is going to pay attention to these two guys in the interim a little bit more and give them a little bit more consideration. Does that mean that they're going to get the job full time? I don't know that, and it's only time will tell. But I do think that he's going to give them more attention and more of a look, right? And give them more of probably a real deal shot, because he probably feels like he missed an opportunity with Rich Bisaccia. But here's Max Crosby. He's got his podcast out that's really good. It's getting a lot of attention, The Rush with Max Crosby, and he just took to the airwaves to talk about the changes going on with the silver and black. Check it out.
All right, y'all. A lot of big breaking news in the last 24 hours. Clearly, everyone saw last night we're making a change in our head coach. I want to start with, first off, just giving my thanks to Coach McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. The second I got that Coach McDaniels was going to be our next head coach, he reached out to me right away, ends up giving me a life-changing contract. Got a ton of respect for those guys and wish them the best moving forward. But obviously, we're on to new things. We got our boy, Antonio Pierce, stepping in as the interim head coach. He's as real as they come. I know Raider Nation is fired up about it. Real Raider from day one. He's from Compton. He's been Raider fan since he was born. Obviously, being a former player, won multiple Super Bowls playing in New York on those great teams. He was a captain. He just has that element of understanding the player's perspective, but also being a coach. His introductory press conference, he wants to match my energy. I already sent him a nice little text saying no chance. The team meeting was lit. We're definitely fired up, going into this week.
So that's one of your leaders of the team right there. That is the leader of the team, the face of the franchise right there, clearly fired up about the opportunity to go play for Antonio Pierce. And look, I've been around the guy for the last couple seasons that he's been in Vegas with the Raiders, and every chance we get to talk to him, every chance I get just to observe him, again, I say it all the time, I'm a body language guy. The way that he has his energy and the way that he coaches up these guys in training camp, we really get close to these guys and are able to observe. And just the way that he coaches them up, the way he's got them running station to station, the way that he's fired up and really is connected with them as far as being part of the product, right? Being part of it, like doing drills with them, working with them, letting them know that it's a partnership, not a, hey, do as I say, not as I do type situation. So I think that that's really important moving forward for the success of not just the defense, but the overall team. And, that's why Antonio Pierce has been put in that position to be the interim head coaches. So the final soundbite that I want you to hear from their press conference, and look, if you didn't get a chance to hear it, like I said, it's about 23 or 24 minutes. Go to Raiders.com. Just carve out about 30 minutes and just really sit down, be distracted. Don't be distracted, right? And just listen, focus in, and tell me that you're not ready to run through a wall for these guys. But we talked about the team meeting that the Raiders had, and I thought it was pretty encouraging that they all got out there and let everything be known, and there was no subject that was off the table. Antonio Pierce had brought up that team meeting during his press conference and just said that, this is something that it came up. So I followed up and asked, about that team meeting that they had last week. He's talking about it's a player-driven league. So how important was it that they had that team meeting since, he got a chance to hear from the players? How did that all go down?
This is a question for both of you guys. You mentioned the team meeting that you had last week, and it's a player-driven business. How much do you think it helped to hear from the players what was going on in their minds in that meeting?
It was good. It was direct. It was blunt. It was needed. And everybody heard them. Everybody in the building heard them. The good thing about when you allow that to happen, you got to sit there and you got to brace yourself. Sometimes you don't want to hear it. There's probably going to be a moment I ain't going to want to hear that kind of stuff. But you got to have thick skin, and you can't take it too personal. It's an emotional business. These men in that locker room go through hell and back to get dressed and play every Sunday. We're on a short week this week. Guys are nicked up, banged, and bruised. They get up there, they put their cape on, they become a superhero again. So what they said was loud and clear. My message to them echoed their statements from that day, and we'll continue to grow from that.
I think what's good about that, Q, is, I think what we have to do here in these next weeks is just to create a culture where it's safe to have those conversations. Like, we want the truth. We're going to give them the truth. It's going to be real, and it's going to be raw, and it's going to be uncut, right? And so that's the type of environment that we want. I think that's where you thrive at. Like, we build a community that has to be conflict, but there also has to be commitment, right, and extreme communication. And so if we have those three things, we can have success.
So, again, I thought that was really important. And you heard both Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly right there talk about that meeting and how important it was. And you hear Champ Kelly talking about the culture and what he's trying to build. And that's how he could work his way into the full-time GM job. And look, he's a guy that as soon as he got hired, I said he's going to have his own team sooner rather than later, right? And the Raiders were lucky to have him. He's a guy that's very well respected across the league. So now that he's getting his opportunity to do it with the Raiders, I think that that's special, and just to a couple of people pointed this out on Raider Nation Radio 920 on Wednesday, the fact that you have Sandra Douglas Morgan as the president right now. You have interim GM Champ Kelly as interim GM, and then of course Antonio Pierce as the interim head coach, all African Americans, right? And that's awesome, right? They don't have that across the league. There's not across the league like that. And I'm not saying it's going to stay like that because Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce are on the interim basis, but I do think that that's awesome. And why wouldn't the Raiders be that organization to have that kind of diversity at the top? I think that that's really cool. But again, I just felt very encouraged from what I heard from the two guys. I think that the Raiders are going to rally, just like you heard in the disc one when I was talking to Patricia Chaina about the game. I think that they're going to rally around these guys, and I think that they're going to go out there and fight. I think you're going to see a different energy. And the other thing about this is Raider Nation has that newfound energy, that newfound excitement, that newfound, breath of fresh air that they needed as well. It was getting really stale. It was getting really dry. You could tell that Raider Nation was losing the sail between their, from their wings and, from underneath their wings. They weren't, high flying anymore. You could tell that there was just such a letdown. And, just the introductory press conference, again, you don't get credit for wins and losses based off that press conference, but it feels to me very similar to what the Lions have with Dan Campbell, right? He has one of those just kind of personalities where he's going to get in the trenches with you. That's how it feels with Antonio Pierce. He has a very Robert Saleh type approach as far as I'm concerned. That's what it is with Antonio Pierce. Certain guys that relate really well, even to Coach McDaniel to a different extent in Miami, not saying that he's some kind of offensive genius, but a guy that can relate to his players. And that's the most important thing, right? It's not always necessarily about the X's and O's. It's more about how you relate to your players. Can you connect with them? And clearly that's something that was missing. As much as Josh McDaniels might have tried to do that, It just wasn't there. It wasn't in his natural being. And so Antonio Pierce has that natural enthusiasm about himself. He has that natural leadership skills about himself. And now a guy that did it on the field is going to try to do it on the sideline and lead the men into battle each and every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whatever the case may be. And I'm all for it. I'm excited, and I think the Raider Nation should get excited and think about the next 9 games and see what it is, right? And I know these guys are ready to go, and it sounds like the team is ready to go as well. But that's what I got for you with segment number 2. Again, just pumped up and excited about the opportunity for both Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce. Coming up in segment number 3, get to your calls and texts. What is on your mind? 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about PrizePicks. That's the title sponsor of the show, and it's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, you against the numbers. It's just that simple. You're not battling thousands of players, pros, sharks. You just pick more than or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Simple, just like that. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League. That's a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. So maybe LeBron James and Travis Kelce are the way you want to roll. You can have a combination of 10.5 three-pointers made and receptions all together. So you want to play alongside some of the best, you can. Meek Mills, he's a part of it. Andrew Schultz, a comedian, he's part of it. Community plays, they have it. You can find all these guys that play this in community plays if that's the way that you want to roll. They even have the reboot policy, so that means your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with the injury insurance policy. What you need to do right now is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the promo code LockedOnNFL for our first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use that promo code LockedOnNFL for our first deposit match up to $100. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Time to jump into your calls and texts. Straight up that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's go ahead and get into a call from Raider Adam. He's calling to talk about what he thinks the Raiders need to do moving forward and what he feels about the team. Here he is, Raider Adam.
Hey, Q. This is Raider Adam. I want to flip the script and talk about what we should do moving forward. I mean, I can sit here and talk about what just happened in the past 24 hours, but time to flip the script, man. So, our boy Aiden O'Connell's getting the start on Sunday for the rest of the season moving forward. We'll see what this rookie has got. I'm pretty excited. I expect the players to rally around him. And, Antonio Pierce, man, I think he will do a good job as an interim head coach, especially playing against his former team and the Giants this Sunday. And, yeah, man, I'm just, like, the sense of, like, breathing some fresh air coming out of this team. You can really, I feel like you're really going to sense it from the players this week. You know, Aiden has that deep ball. I think we're going to spread the ball around and get our playmakers involved in this game and just see what this offense is all about. And the defense is really coming along. And, you know, hopefully, it's kind of crazy to think about, but our next 2 games are pretty winnable. We can get to 500 here in the next 2 weeks before we play the Dolphins in Miami. And I'm going to that game. I'm currently in Miami right now for one of my clinical rotations for grad school. So hoping in a couple of weeks I'm going to be a happy Raider fan and watch my Raiders live in Miami. So appreciate the podcast, Q. You're doing a really good job. I've been listening to about a little bit over a year and a half, and appreciate for what you do for Raider Nation. So go Raiders.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you, and you got to take it one game at a time, right? I, too, feel like there's a newfound sense of energy, a newfound sense of excitement in the building and amongst the fans. It was much needed. I think highly of both Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce, and I know they have at least 9 games to show what this team could look like and what they can do and how those players react. That's going to be the most important thing, how those players react to the coach, Antonio Pierce, on the field, and how that culture starts to look and shape and take form inside the building. That's going to be big for Champ Kelly as well. But Raider Adam, thanks for the call. I appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Joel in the IE. Says, Q, Joel out the IE, man, what a comeback win. You have to love Halloween now, right? I get it. I don't wish bad on anyone, but those dudes still getting paid, so I'm not feeling bad for them. They weren't doing their job, plus I'm sure they'll be back with the Patriots next season. I hope Champ Kelly is kept as a GM. Pierce is a surprise choice for interim, but I like it. former player and one with a solid career. I'm sure he has a lot of respect from that locker room. Let's hope these guys make the right move and let Aiden O'Connell be the quarterback for the rest of the year. You should do the show from the torch tomorrow, and hopefully it's a lit all day. I'm sure Al Davis is smiling right now. That's when Joel in the IE and Aiden O'Connell will get the start on Sunday and most likely the rest of the year, and I'm excited about that. I won't be at the torch tomorrow, but I'll be at the torch at Allegiant Stadium on Sunday for Q's Kickoff. That's the pregame show right before the official pregame show with JT the Brick and Eric Allen. I hope, well, I don't want to say I hope because I haven't seen anything yet, but I do like Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce a lot, and let's just say I root for them. I root for their success. I root for any Raiders coach to be successful. I root for any Raiders GM to be successful. But knowing those guys really well, Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce from the last couple of years that they've been with the Silver and Black, I definitely root for them and hope the best for them. And we'll see over the course of the next 9 games what they can do. But like I said, I definitely root for them to be successful, and hopefully they will. Up next, got a call from Lodi, California Raider. He's calling to talk about the presser from Coach Pierce and Champ Kelly, and is refreshed and pumped to say the least. Here he is, Lodi, California Raider.
What up, Q? Lodi, California Raider. Just wanted to comment on Coach Antonio Pierce and General Manager Champ Kelly. I loved the interview. I loved everything of what I heard and said. And for once, being a longtime Raider fan, 40-plus years, that's the first time I hear genuine thoughts. And I'm happy. I'm looking forward to it. He's already come across like a man possessed, ready to make something happen, which this organization needs. Appreciate everything you do. Lodi, California Raider. Out.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And yeah, they definitely won the presser, right? They feel like true Raiders. They got a tough schedule ahead of them. O'Connell's a rookie, but here you go, right? I mean, I've talked about it all year. A lot of people got angry when I said that he wasn't ready yet, and that there'll come a time when he'll get a good stretch of games. He's got a great stretch of games now. Now all he's got to do is go out there and prove it one way or the other. Hey, I can do this. I can be the guy, or maybe I can't be the guy. And if not, that's okay too. Right? Because then they know exactly what they need moving forward. Champ Kelly knows what he needs moving forward, and the rest of the front office knows what they need moving forward and how to get this team back where it needs to be. So, yeah, man, it's going to be fun to be able to monitor each and every week. It's almost like getting that, that top-notch rookie quarterback, that number 1 or number 2 overall pick, and you just want to see him go out there each and every week and develop because you're just excited about him. Well, I'm excited about Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce to see how this team reacts to him on the daily. Thanks so much for that call. I appreciate you. Up next, I just got time for a couple more. Got a text from Bigfoot Raider. Says, yo, Q, Bigfoot Raider again. I feel good about these interim changes. If you think about it personally, that group that has had the most production is the linebacker room. And I can see Pierce's presence made it and speaks volumes on his style and mentality. I love it. Like he said, he was born a Raider. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks, Q, for all that you do. That's Bigfoot Raider. And yeah, as you can tell, I'm all in. Hell, I did a double disc for you. Right? I'm all in. I appreciate what Coach Pierce was able to bring to the table. I love his presence. And the other thing I liked about his press conference, and this is something that I noticed from being in the room, and he mentioned this, and I didn't play the whole thing. Again, if you missed some of it, you can go back and listen to it on Raiders.com. But he got everyone's attention. So, like, if Vinny, who's across the room from me, asked a question, he addressed Vinny, but he addressed the whole room. He looked across the whole room and surveyed them. And something he said multiple times when he was talking about the meeting he had with the players is that he had their eyes. He could feel them. And that's how he has to be. He has to be able to have their eyes. And he had all of our eyes in the media room. And that's just a sign of a good leader, a guy who can get a question from one side of the room but address the whole room at the same time. So that's definitely a good step as far as I'm concerned. And the first test will come up on Sunday against the Giants, his former team, a team he won a Super Bowl with. Should be a lot of fun. He let it be known it's not about him versus the Giants. It's about the Raiders versus the Giants. And, of course, you got to appreciate that as well. We'll close out with a call from Joe in Kansas City. He's calling to talk about the introductory presser for Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce, and he compares it to a special coaching situation happening in college football. Here he is, Joe in KC.
Yo, what up, Q? It's your boy Joe out here in KC, man. Just got done listening to the press conference with Champ Kelly, Antonio Pierce, man. I love everything that I hear, man. It was fantastic. Hearing that AP is from the Oakland area, and the tie, the Raider tie, and you could just feel his power and his energy. It almost felt like Deion at Colorado, where it's just like you want to be a part of that. And you can tell that the players are going to go to bat for him. They're going to give him everything that they have. I remember when we first got Champ Kelly, and people were saying that it wouldn't be long before he was a GM. And so now to see he will have his opportunity, man, I'm excited. The things that he was saying, it seems like he really knows what he's talking about, and he's a straight shooter, which I'm sure the players are going to be able to appreciate. And yeah, man, I'm really excited. And to be honest, I think that we should just give them the keys, especially if these players show how hard that I think that they will play for them. Mark Davis, last time the players told them who they wanted, and he chose to go another route. And I think he sees the mistake in that, and he should have trusted, that he has some of the best players in the league, and, go with who they want. Trust those players, because they're the ones that's going out there on the field. So, yeah, man, that's all I got to say, man. I'm excited. I'm optimistic. And let's see what's going to happen, man. Later, go out.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And yeah, man, I said it from day one that Champ Kelly would be a GM of his own team sooner rather than later. And now he's got an opportunity with the Raiders, right? I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I thought that it was great that the Raiders were able to hold on to him. He actually interviewed with the Raiders before Dave Ziegler did for the actual GM position. He stayed around and was the assistant. I thought that was big that they were able to get him because he's a guy that's highly respected around the league. And I was the first person to say he's going to get another job somewhere else sooner rather than later. The Raiders will probably only have him for a couple years, and I think that they're in a really good position that they do have him still. So he's got an opportunity. Obviously, he's got some respect in the building, or he wouldn't be in that position at all. He'd be like Mick Lombardi, who was fired. Bo Hardegree is going to be the offensive coordinator, moving up from the quarterback coach's position, so he'll be calling the plays, and that's something to pay attention to too. It's the first time he's ever called plays, but Champ Kelly said that he's been with them multiple times. They have plenty of confidence in Bo Hardegree, so if they have confidence, why shouldn't I have confidence? And we'll get to see it on full display come Sunday. So yeah, it's going to be cool. Coach Pierce, being from Compton, California, obviously has a history with the Raiders, knows the Raiders' history really well, and that's the other thing that I think is so cool. The Raiders have not been consistently good for so long, but it's almost like everyone who has a chance to be a Raider, everyone who's come into the organization, all has a story or appreciation or some kind of, a relation to the silver and black. And it's just cool to know that. It just lets you know, if you needed evidence, how historical this franchise is. Now we all just hope that they can get back to those historical days where they're a consistently really good team. But thank you so much for that call. I appreciate you. Got a text from Whiskey and Jersey Shore we'll get to on tomorrow's show, and got plenty more feedback as we close out the week really strong. We'll have keys to victory because there is a game that's coming up on Sunday that I do think the Raiders are going to win. We'll have news and notes. First time that the media will get an opportunity to get into the Raiders locker room. I'm going to try to do that, but the locker room closes at 1:35, and my radio show starts at 2. So I'm going to be kind of pushing it. We'll see if I can make it. We're going to do the best we can, and whatever we do, we'll bring it to you coming up on tomorrow's show as we close out the week really strong. So hopefully you enjoyed the second disc. I know I'm a little kind of all over the place. I'm exhausted. I'm dog tired. I've done multiple radio shows, multiple podcasts, but again, I didn't want to cheat you with just the crossover edition today because I thought it was more important to go ahead and get into Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce because, again, they met with us on Wednesday, and so I didn't want to leave you hanging. I didn't want to cheat you. I wanted to make sure that I treat Raider Nation the way that Raider Nation should be treated, and that's with all due respect. So, again, hopefully you enjoyed the show. If not, well, my bad. I tried, but we'll be back tomorrow, Raider Nation. So until then, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.